So thank you, Colson, for the intro. As Colson mentioned, we're going to be talking about Head of the Collaboration Curve. And this was a talk that I did with Simon Chadwick from CanBR. We ran this work together earlier this year and presented it at the Insights Association's annual conference. And we looked at the role of small and large businesses, the challenges they face, because we have an increasingly complicated market, an increasingly complicated industry, where we need to talk to each other better. So we wanted to investigate that, and specifically what it is that small businesses are able to do to take us further. What really inspired this is, as I was saying, this is something we've observed over all the years that we've been in the industry. We've seen these specializations starting to develop more and more. And we're also seeing indications from research and the interactions we've had with businesses, those that are integrating themselves across departments and across other research and data professionals. There's indications that they're having greater business impact and that their ratings on the maturity scale are higher than those who are not integrated. And also, again, because we so often look at the role of larger businesses, we look to them to guide us on what we should be doing better. And so we overlook the role that small businesses play. And that's one thing that we really wanted to investigate with this work, because they may be small, but they're also mighty. So we spoke to 18 different insights leaders to learn more about this. And when I say insights leaders, I'm really increasing or broadening the scope of what we mean by insights professionals. We might traditionally think of people in market research, but this actually extends to people working on CX, UX, data analytics of all kinds, competitive intelligence, even design, because we're all using data and insights to inform business decisions. So that's really the scope of all the different types of professionals we spoke to across smaller agency, small, medium, and large, all the way up to larger brand and corporate. So we could really get a complete picture of what's happening today. How does collaboration show up? What are those top collaboration challenges? How are we bridging the gap? And what specifically can we learn from smaller businesses, the value of cross-collaboration, and the future? Now, again, we don't have time to talk through every single one of these points today, but if you like what you see and you want to learn more, you can ping me and I'll send you the full presentation. So on to, what are these forces driving collaboration? Well, I'm sure these will look familiar to you. There's increasing kind of budget constraints. We've seen a lot of functions tightening their belts, having to do more with less. We've seen loads of layoffs. So it's really evident that we really are pressured to stretch the data that we have further. Adding to this issue is the fact that we do have so much data already at our disposal. We haven't figured out the way to integrate it properly. We're, as one participant said, we're data rich and insights poor. So how can we bring all this data together, and especially to look at conflicting data, resolving conflicting data, and reducing duplicated efforts? This happens so frequently. It's actually shocking, especially when you have those bigger organizations where you have these very specialized roles conducting very similar studies when they could actually be collaborating together and running one study together. We're also seeing this omni-channel environment. So as consumers, we're interacting with brands in so many ways that are both digital and non-digital. And so there's this increasing need to kind of connect those dots across all of those different channels and media touch points. So this isn't just something that we think should be happening either. So the people we spoke to have actually noticed it. That smaller companies are saying there's a hunger for more holistic data, and that's coming from the client side. So there really is that expectation that we're able to do that as smaller businesses. I think something else that's really important to note here is that these businesses that have created siloed working environments were set up that way to be efficient, and that has worked for a really long time. So this isn't about, as one person said, it isn't about taking down these legacy systems with a bulldozer. It's really about celebrating the fact that we've evolved to this point and that to reevaluate it so that we can move forward together more effectively. So that brings me to the role of small businesses. In contrast to larger organizations, small businesses are really better set up to collaborate in many ways. I had the pleasure of speaking to Camille Nasita about this, who's been with Humanate for since it was a much smaller business, and now it's huge global agency. And she said it's so much easier to incorporate new data sources as a smaller company. So we have a lot of smaller companies that are able to experiment and push the boundaries, and they're driven to do that so they can stay competitive. We're also seeing a much greater prevalence of polymaths, as people in smaller businesses tend to need to wear multiple hats. Whereas you think about a larger business, they have these specialized roles that are working in each of their individual departments. And because of that reason, we're also seeing multidisciplinary teams working very closely, and that's just simply because of the proximity. There's less people to collaborate across, whereas in larger businesses, they're separated by departments. And where it doesn't make sense to hire full-time specialists, this is a really interesting point for small businesses. They have the opportunity to partner with whoever they like. Now, Beth O'Shaughnessy from Vital Findings has worked at larger organizations herself, And she said to us when she worked at those larger organizations, she would usually pick a supplier that had already been approved by that larger organization, because it's very difficult to get those new partners approved. So you'd end up sort of having to work with that partner, even though they may not be the best match for what it is you're trying to achieve. So given these attributes, smaller businesses nowadays are really playing a critical collaborative role for their clients. One way in which they do this is to bring in specialists, or what we call translators, who can help to reframe information so that it's actionable for the intended audiences. We all talk about this, but I think we don't know how to take it further necessarily. And this is where smaller businesses are able to shine. As Nicola Quayle mentioned, she arms her teams with a UX expert whenever there's a project that will feed directly into product design decisions. And it's really important to note this, because it's this language barrier that tends to be the root of most collaboration challenges. Smaller businesses are also connecting information from various inputs so that we're getting a more complete view. This is illustrated very nicely by the quote from Elise Roach from Day One Strategy, where she talks about bringing together syndicated reports and existing company data and using that to inform primary research. So gone are the days when we used to receive a brief, we execute the brief, and then we deliver the findings. No. Nowadays, we need to think about data sources, existing background information from the client. What do we already have at our disposal? What other external data sources can we bring in so that we can really design a project that's fit for purpose? So, smaller businesses are also acting as a connective tissue for their clients. I love that phrase, connective tissue. So this is where they're working with multiple divisions across a corporate company or larger organization, and they're able to distribute that information across the divides. So they're facilitating that alignment and helping those companies to think more broadly and holistically. And that was something that we heard from Sandra Brown from MDRG. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the role of smaller businesses and how they're able to improve collaboration across those client-side businesses, how can you, and maybe you're client-side, or maybe you're a smaller agency or a larger agency, whatever your business may be, think about how you can leverage the unique attributes of your business to aid client-side collaboration today.